Maher stands by with someone who says things like, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize private property, it's over. Seize private property. Home ownership is racist. Elect more communists. Private property, especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy.
Bill Maher's criticism of Zohran Mamdani went far beyond disagreeing with one politician. Instead, it challenged a broader direction within the Democratic Party and raised questions about where certain policy ideas could ultimately lead. Rather than focusing on a routine debate over rent freezes, public transit, or campaign messaging, Maher argued that the conversation had become much larger than any single proposal. According to Maher, there comes a point where democratic socialist policies stop resembling the social welfare systems often associated with Scandinavian countries and begin reflecting a much more government-centered political philosophy. That argument immediately sparked debate, with supporters and critics offering sharply different reactions. Before examining those claims further, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share an opinion in the comments about whether Maher's criticism accurately reflects the current political landscape.
If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. Zohran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world.
One point that receives broad agreement is that affordability remains a serious concern for millions of Americans. Housing costs continue rising in cities such as New York and Los Angeles. Grocery bills have become increasingly expensive, and many working families feel stretched despite holding full-time jobs. For countless households, the cost of everyday life has become one of the defining economic issues of the moment. That reality helps explain why promises to lower living costs attract so much attention. When a candidate says life can become more affordable, people naturally listen. The real debate, however, is not about whether the problem exists. The debate centers on whether the proposed solutions are practical, sustainable, and capable of producing the results being promised. That is where Maher believes the discussion becomes especially important. He argues that Mamdani's message is built around the idea that wealth is concentrated among a small group, the economic system is fundamentally unfair, and expanding government while increasing taxes on higher earners can significantly improve conditions for everyone. Whether that approach represents effective policy or unrealistic promises has become one of the central questions driving the debate surrounding his campaign.
Give him a chance. Come on, Bill. I'm a born and raised a New Yorker. Let's, see what he can do, you know?
What?
Oh, okay. Let's see what he can do, but we already know what he is because it's in his own statements and the people he hires.
Yep.
I talked about him. You say you watch it. You must have seen this. The first show was talking about this woman who is his,
I saw, yeah.
Like the head of, about his big issue is the rent. You know, he's
right.
The rent is too damn high guy, and that's a good issue. And he's affordability is a great issue, and but you know, I said, how do I know he's a communist? Well, I'm reading between the lines when he hired someone who says word for word, let's elect more communists.
At first glance, that message sounds simple. It sounds fair. It sounds morally compelling. And it presents itself as a straightforward path toward economic justice. But governing an economy is far more complicated than fitting a slogan onto a campaign sign. Critics argue that proposals focused on heavily taxing high-income earners often leave out an important reality. Wealth, investment, and businesses are not fixed in one place. Capital can move, companies can relocate, and individuals with financial flexibility often have choices about where they invest and live. Supporters and critics may disagree about whether that is desirable, but many economists acknowledge that mobility is an important factor in tax policy. Frustration directed at wealthy individuals does not change the fact that financial decisions are influenced by incentives. If investors or businesses believe the environment has become less favorable, some may choose to move their operations elsewhere. That possibility has become a recurring part of debates over taxation and economic policy. The next question naturally becomes who ultimately absorbs the costs if economic activity slows or businesses relocate. Critics of higher tax proposals argue that the burden frequently reaches beyond the wealthiest individuals. They contend that middle-class families, small business owners, workers, and consumers can also feel the effects through higher costs, additional fees, reduced investment, or slower job growth. Whether that outcome occurs depends on many factors, but it remains a central point of disagreement in these debates.
I mean, the waste of human capital. The Polish people, for example, they're a very smart,
crafty,
capable
yes,
people, and as
very.
soon as they threw off the shackles of communism,
Yeah.
Poland has done very well since.
They're
yes.
ascending right now.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Warsaw, I'm sure, is a very vibrant, prosperous city.
For a major city, it is unbelievably safe.
Have you gone there?
Yes. Been to Poland, it's beautiful.
So she
Gorgeous.
goes back to see family and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
Another argument raised during the discussion focused on government spending rather than taxation alone. Spencer Pratt questioned why states such as California and New York continue facing challenges involving infrastructure, public services, schools, parks, and community programs, despite collecting significant tax revenue. His comments reflected a broader concern shared by many critics about how efficiently public funds are managed and distributed. That perspective shifts the conversation away from asking only whether governments should collect more revenue. Instead, it raises questions about accountability, spending priorities, and whether existing resources are reaching the people and services they were intended to support. According to that view, improving outcomes may require not only discussions about taxation, but also greater transparency, oversight, and efficiency in how public money is ultimately used. That is why Bill Maher's criticism resonated with so many people. His argument was not simply about disagreeing with Zohran Mamdani as an individual. Instead, he questioned whether certain political ideas were being presented as moderate, when, in his view, they represented a much broader shift in ideology. Maher argued that political labels still matter because they help voters understand the principles and policies being proposed. Supporters of Mamdani often respond by emphasizing that democratic socialism and communism are not the same. Democratic socialists participate in democratic elections and advocate change through the political process, while communism has historically been associated with eliminating private ownership of the means of production. Those distinctions are important. However, Maher's criticism focused less on the label itself and more on the rhetoric and political alliances that surround the movement. His broader point was that when public figures within a political movement speak favorably about policies involving expanded government control, limiting private ownership, or challenging long-standing economic structures, voters naturally begin evaluating the movement as a whole. Whether those perceptions are entirely accurate or not, Maher argued that political messaging and the company a movement keeps influence how the public interprets its goals. That perception can become just as important as the official platform itself. Maher encouraged viewers to look beyond campaign slogans and examine the broader philosophy being presented.
And I'm sure, Mamdani is watching this right now, as he always does, I'm sure, and saying, exactly, Bill, that's my point. Capitalism is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible, except it's still better than the reverse.
Yeah,
You
well,
want to really be... Soviet people died at 38 from being drunk all the time because they couldn't take their life under communism.
my girlfriend is Polish. She was born into communism. She lived under it for a little while, and she shakes her head. She's like, they don't know what they're asking for. They don't know what they're talking about.
And it would be so easy to find out. It wasn't like it happened 1,000 years ago.
Exactly.
It happened in our lifetimes.
She would explain to me the grocery card they got. She got a grocery card. Her family got a grocery card, and they would.
This is Poland.
Yeah.
Warsaw.
Yeah, and you were allowed. Your family of 4. You get X amount of milk.
His criticism suggested paying attention to the language being used, the priorities being emphasized, and the values being promoted. According to that perspective, the debate extends beyond taxation or housing policy and reaches larger questions about ownership, economic incentives, entrepreneurship, and the role of private success within society. For many Americans, home ownership represents much more than a financial investment. It symbolizes stability, independence, and the opportunity to build a better future for the next generation. For immigrant families, working-class households, and many others, Owning a home has long been viewed as an important milestone. Maher argued that when political rhetoric appears dismissive of those aspirations, many voters interpret it as criticism of the very goals they have spent years trying to achieve. He believes that perception creates a significant political challenge for Democrats because voters who feel their aspirations are being questioned may begin looking elsewhere for representation. Bill Maher also raised questions about reports concerning Zohran Mamdani's Ugandan citizenship ties, arguing that the discussion was less about legal responsibility and more about political consistency. His point was not that Mamdani is responsible for another country's laws. Rather, Maher argued that when a public figure strongly advocates for LGBTQ rights while maintaining reported citizenship ties to a country widely criticized for its anti-LGBTQ legislation, some voters are likely to ask questions. In Maher's view, those questions are a predictable part of public debate.
Socialism, to a degree that I would say is very close to communism. I'm talking about Mamdani. I'm talking about, I think, the mayor in Seattle maybe now.
One of my opponents.
And one of your opponents.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, look, communism is a form of government. You're allowed to back it. You're allowed to be it. You're allowed to vote for it. Let's just not pretend that, one, we haven't tried it a lot around the world and it's a disaster. And two, that if you are, for like seizing personal property and certain other things that Mamdani or his very close lieutenants have said outright, home ownership is racist. If you are believing these radical things, yes, you are communist.
Supporters of Mamdani have offered different perspectives, but Maher suggested that the issue could have been addressed more directly. He argued that political movements built around moral clarity are often held to particularly high standards when questions about consistency arise. According to his criticism, dismissing every concern as politically motivated or unfair may not persuade voters who are simply looking for straightforward answers. Maher also argued that once voters begin believing a politician is avoiding a difficult question, the issue often expands beyond the original topic. The conversation becomes centered on trust. Voters naturally begin asking whether campaign principles reflect genuine convictions or whether they are being applied selectively depending on the political circumstances. That broader question, Maher suggested, can become far more significant than the original controversy itself. According to Maher, authenticity remains one of Mamdani's greatest political strengths, making consistency especially important. His argument was that candidates who present themselves as outspoken truth-tellers should expect the same level of scrutiny they apply to others. That perspective formed the foundation of Maher's broader critique throughout the discussion. Maher also expanded the debate beyond one individual, arguing that versions of these economic ideas have been attempted in different countries throughout history with mixed or disappointing results. He referenced the experiences of people who lived under communist systems, including examples from Poland, suggesting that those first-hand accounts often describe shortages, bureaucratic inefficiency, corruption, and limited economic opportunity, rather than the ideal outcomes sometimes imagined in political rhetoric. Whether one agrees with that assessment or not, Maher argued that historical experience deserves careful consideration whenever sweeping economic changes are proposed. People who lived under communist systems often describe very different memories from the idealized versions that sometimes appear in political.
The issue now that Andrew Cuomo is bringing up in New York is that he is a Ugandan citizen. Uganda is a country where they homosexuals.
So somebody who is a dual citizen can't be mayor of New York, or?
I would renounce, if I was the dual citizen with a country whose policy, government policy, was we homosexuals, yeah, I would renounce that citizenship. I don't, and to not, and he also,
I think that is buying into a fear. I think that is buying into a fear framework that is not
fear
good.
of killing homosexuals.
It's not good for the country. It's not
debates. Rather than recalling full shelves or economic opportunity, many remember shortages, long lines for everyday necessities, and the uncertainty of not knowing whether basic goods would even be available. They also describe a system where personal effort often seemed disconnected from personal reward. while political influence frequently mattered more than individual achievement. In many historical accounts, equality was promised, but those closest to power often enjoyed advantages unavailable to everyone else. Critics of those systems argue that this reflects an important reality about human nature. Most people are motivated by the desire to improve life for themselves and their families. They want their work to matter, their skills to be rewarded, and their sacrifices to create new opportunities. Whether that means learning a trade, starting a business, saving money, or taking financial risks, many believe those efforts should produce meaningful results over time. Supporters of market economies often argue that incentives play a central role in encouraging innovation, entrepreneurship, and long-term investment. They contend that when people believe hard work and creativity can improve their lives, they are more willing to take risks, create businesses, hire employees, and develop new ideas. According to this perspective, reducing those incentives too dramatically could slow economic growth and discourage future investment. That debate remains one of the defining differences between competing economic philosophies. At the same time, critics of modern capitalism acknowledge that significant challenges exist. Rising healthcare costs, expensive housing, stagnant wages for many workers, corporate misconduct, and political corruption are all issues that continue generating widespread concern. Those problems are real topics of public debate and have fueled calls for meaningful economic reform across the political spectrum.
That's how we actually get you more money. To lie to you and tell you, we're gonna tax these rich people. We already tax so much in LA, in California, I can't even comprehend taxing more. What's happening is we tax these people and then other rich people, the champagne socialists, scammers, steal that money because they're all connected to the people taxing them. And then the people that should see the money, the communities, after the Boys and Girls Clubs, the parks, the actual infrastructure doesn't see that money because different rich people stole the money that was being taxed from the rich people.
The disagreement centers on how those reforms should be achieved. One perspective argues for improving the existing system through stronger competition, greater accountability, smarter regulation, expanded housing, better schools, safer communities, lower barriers for entrepreneurs, and more effective government institutions. Supporters believe those changes can address major problems without replacing the broader economic framework. They argue that practical reforms may receive less attention than more dramatic political proposals, but they often prove more sustainable over the long term. Meanwhile, sweeping ideological solutions can appear appealing because they simplify complicated issues into clear conflicts, making political debates easier to frame, but not necessarily easier to solve. Bill Maher's broader argument is that economic hardship can make simple political promises especially appealing, but that does not automatically make those promises effective. When housing costs continue climbing, proposals like rent freezes may sound attractive. When grocery prices remain high, greater government involvement in food distribution may seem worth considering. And when frustration with wealthy individuals grows, calls for significantly higher taxes can gain support. Maher's point is that difficult circumstances often increase the appeal of straightforward solutions, even when the long-term consequences remain heavily debated. According to Maher, the concern is what happens after those policies are implemented. Critics argue that if investment slows, businesses reduce expansion, or taxpayers adjust their financial decisions, the broader economy can feel those effects over time. From that perspective, the people who were promised the greatest relief may ultimately experience higher costs, fewer opportunities, or slower economic growth instead. Whether those outcomes occur depends on many factors, but Maher believes they deserve careful consideration before major policy changes are embraced. For Maher, the conversation extends far beyond one candidate or one election. He views it as a larger warning about the direction of parts of the Democratic Party and the growing influence of its activist wing. His argument is that many voters are not looking for sweeping ideological change. Instead, they are looking for competent government, practical leadership, and policies that improve everyday life without dramatically reshaping the economic system. Many Americans simply want safer neighborhoods, more affordable housing, reliable schools, functioning public transportation, clean parks, and government institutions that deliver results efficiently. They want opportunities to succeed, confidence that hard work will be rewarded, and the belief that future generations can enjoy greater prosperity. Maher argues those priorities are shared by far more voters than the loudest political debates often suggest. He also believes there is an important distinction between supporting working families and portraying economic success as something inherently negative. Likewise, he argues there is a meaningful difference between reforming capitalism and replacing it with a fundamentally different economic model. In his view, charismatic leadership and compelling campaign slogans should never substitute for careful examination of how proposed policies have worked in practice. Ultimately, Maher's criticism focused on encouraging voters to examine ideas closely rather than accepting political branding at face value. He argued that if major ideological changes are being proposed, they should be discussed openly and evaluated based on history, evidence, and likely outcomes rather than presentation alone. At the same time, he maintained that capitalism has genuine flaws, requiring meaningful reform, stronger accountability, and better oversight. Rather than abandoning the existing economic system entirely, Maher argued that improving it through practical reforms offers a more realistic path forward. His message was that freedom, personal responsibility, economic opportunity, and incentives for innovation remain important foundations of long-term prosperity. Whether people agree or disagree with that conclusion, his remarks have added another prominent voice to an ongoing national debate about the future direction of economic policy and political leadership. What are your thoughts on Maher's argument? Did his criticism raise important concerns, or do you believe he overstated the case? Share your opinion in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more political analysis and discussions covering today's biggest debates.